All right, so my name is William Orlewicz, and I'm the principal attorney at Relic Law. Our law firm is based here in Detroit. We have an office in Chicago. We are a boutique law firm focused pretty much exclusively on data privacy and cybersecurity compliance. So we work with companies in all industries and of all sizes. So everything from large multinational publicly traded companies with banking regulations and financial services and stuff like that, to defense contractors. Our team is multidisciplinary, so we have attorneys that are really focused on the compliance side and what the legal obligations are of companies that operate in these particular spaces. And then we also have security professionals on staff that assist us in these engagements. And as it pertains to CMMC, we are a CMMC accreditation body registered provider organization, RPO. What that means is that our organization is registered with the CMMC-AB. We've been approved by them, and members of our team have gone through the RP training to assist defense contractors, federal contractors with their compliance obligations around CMMC. UBX Cloud, and I'll just introduce them briefly. You'll get a chance to hear more about them from Steve later on in the presentation, but they're a US-based cloud services provider with multiple data centers here in the United States. They support large and small MSPs with white label cloud infrastructure and backend solutions, a lot of the ones that MSPs resell. And they have developed a CMMC ready cloud enclave environment, which is designed for CMMC compliance. So it's a unique solution that can be leveraged in CMMC engagements. So your presenters today, obviously, I'm Will Orlewicz, and so my background includes data privacy and cybersecurity. Previous career, I worked in the corporate side of things, but in the recent history, it focused exclusively on data privacy, cybersecurity. Peter Samoray is a security advisor with our firm, obviously well-credentialed and has experience in the defense space. And then Steve Panofsky, who is the president of UBX Cloud and a systems engineer. So I'm going to be taking us through this first section here on what the CMMC is. So what is the CMMC? Excuse me. The CMMC represents really the US DoD's continued effort to protect controlled and classified information in the defense supply chain. To drill down into that, if you look at the evolution of their efforts to protect controlled and classified information, it really began in earnest in 2017. The DoD issued DFARS 252-204-2017, which is essentially a requirement that contractors, federal contractors, defense contractors that receive controlled and classified information are created in the course of their contracts with the government employ certain safeguarding mechanisms. And those were aligned initially to NIST SP 800-171. Some of you may be familiar with that standard. It's been around for some time. It was initially developed really for federal agencies and then was tailored to non-federal organizations. And so the DoD started there. The problem that they've had is that there's been little compliance. So there are contractual obligations that contractors have to comply with that requirement, but they weren't being audited against it. And many of them were basically, sort of lacking in their implementation of it. And so CMMC is a way that the DoD is trying to use to create accountability by creating this assessment process whereby, it's almost impossible for, a contractor to kind of skate by without doing the work. And so this is requiring contractors to show their work, and it's quite a robust framework. So, NIST 800-171 had 110 controls split across about 14 different security domains. CMMC builds on that at its highest level. There's 5 levels, which are identified as maturity processes. So there's 171 quote unquote security practices that are covered under the CMMC, many of which are based on NIST 800-171, but in creating CMMC, they pulled from other sources as well. So it's sort of an amalgamation of different security controls that the DoD believes would sufficiently protect the information that contractors hold on their behalf. So to whom does the CMMC apply? So it's a really large number. The DoD is projecting that about 340,000 organizations will eventually require CMMC certification. These are both, the prime contractors that everybody, knows, the large ones, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and the like, as well as subcontractors and vendors who have access to CUI. And so there's a lot of them that need to go through this. The DoD is taking what they consider to be a crawl, walk, run approach. Beginning this year, 2021, the first 15 contracts have CMMC obligations baked into them. And so they're going to ramp up over time. It's not going to be like tomorrow, there's 340,000 companies that need to be independently assessed. But over the next 5 years, it's going to be quite a large number that are going through this process. And so the level that a contractor needs to meet is really dependent on what kind of information they receive. Federal contract information, which is sometimes just the sensitive information that might be disclosed as part of an RFP or bid process, is subject to CMMC level 1, which is basic cyber hygiene. Most contractors that are actually doing significant work for the government, receiving technical information, prints, drawings, specifications, stuff like that, they're going to be receiving what's considered controlled and classified information, which is really a generic term for lots of other different types of information, controlled technical information, and other information with separate dissemination controls. But for the purposes of this presentation and really CMMC in general, we group it all together as CUI, and CUI requires compliance with CMMC maturity level 3. Some IT MSPs, depending on the relationship they have with their customers, if their customers are required to be CMMC compliant, may also need to have CMMC compliance. Some of the things that we're going to talk about in this presentation are ways around that and ways that you can leverage technology to support your customers without having to be burdened with these obligations. So how does the CMMC work? So the CMMC, it's overseen by the DoD. It's really a creature of the Department of Defense. They helped organize, a group of outside institutions, organizations, and professionals to create the CMMC accreditation body, which really is responsible for managing the certification process, credentialing of professionals, and certified third-party assessors. So the CMMC-AB really sits in charge of most of the activities concerning the CMMC, with DoD having oversight, making sure that it aligns to DoD's core mission. So contractors that want to participate in applicable federal contracts need to be CMMC certified in order to be awarded such contracts. Right now, the requirement isn't that you have to be certified in order to bid, but by the time an award is made, you have to be certified. And if you are not certified, it's basically going to be a disqualifying event. So if you can imagine, there are hundreds of thousands of companies that rely for revenue on government contracts, DoD contracts. Not being certified and not being able to participate in these contracts, it would be a major blow to them. So this is unlike other compliances that we work with, ISO 27001, SOC 2, and the like, which are usually nice to haves for companies. They might help them improve their market position and the like. This is really it's a bet the business compliance, right? If you don't do it, you don't get it done, then you're really risking your revenue streams from the government. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Peter Samoray, who's going to discuss with you a little bit about CMMC mechanics.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate that. So there's different levels. As Will mentioned, you crawl before you walk, walk before you run. Each one of these are incremental. So if you look at the basic level, as he said, it's really federal contract information, which is really essentially not for public release. Whereas controlled unclassified it's controlled, yet it's not classified in terms of security, top secret, that type of classification. So if you look at basic 17, if we add 55 to that, there's your 72. If you add 58 to that, there's your 130. If you add another 26, that's where you get the 156, and another 15 on that for level 5, that's your 171. So as you can see, each one is building upon improving your security posture, essentially. And again, you can't go from 1 to 3 or 3 to 5 without successfully accomplishing the cyber hygiene of each specific level. So that's really, again, it's an incremental process. and each one has different controls. It's primarily NIST 800-171 version 2, but it's also built upon other frameworks such as CIS. I think there's a little bit taken out of ISO as well, 27,000 series, but it's primarily NIST. So just wanted to go over that. Next slide, Will. Okay, so these categories, these practices, again, there's a lot of crossover between the other frameworks, primarily NIST, but it touches on a little bit of 853. These are the core areas. Now, for those of you that have entered your scores in SPRS, you'll see that there's a weighted value to different areas. Access control, incident response is a little bit heavier, maintenance. And if you get into different areas like encryption, for example, I think it's under system and communication protection, you'll see there's different qualifications in each. For example, FIPS, Federal Information Processing Standard, will require you to get a separate certification on your encryption. So you'll have to get an outside organization to come in and certify that you have adhered to the FIPS standard. So these are the type of key areas. There is an excellent document that I'd like to reference. It's called the NIST Handbook 162. You just Google that, you'll be able to see how each one of these is laid out. It's a really nice document that it lays out the what, the who, the how, and the why. Next slide. Okay, so again, we talked about maturity levels as far as building upon each one. So if you look at level 1, the difference here is it's just performed. The practices must be adequately implemented and performed. That's it for level 1. If you go to level 2, the difference is it was performed and documented. Now we're getting into another layer, another level of maturity. Now you're documenting all your processes, with procedures, policies, diagrams, it's all documented now. The third level is that it's performed, documented, and it's managed. So that means your documentation is now has a layer of governance, of management, where your policies are reviewed on an annual basis. Your configuration management is managed. It's your configurations are tested. They're reviewed before they're implemented. So as you can see, each layer, there's an added layer of progression moving forward. Next slide. So the assessment overall, and you're going to see a lot of acronyms, C3PAO, Certified Third Party Assessment Organization. They're going to require that you have a certified assessor that's independent of the organization. So what that means is I can't be certified in my organization and then assess my organization. That would be a conflict of interest. So it's got to be somebody external. That doesn't mean you can't have somebody within your organization that's certified, just overseeing this, but they cannot certify that same organization. The second area, each information system will need what's called a system security plan. And that's really can be anything from a spreadsheet or any type of documentation that says, here's the requirement. Here, did we satisfy it? Yes or no? If not, here's the gap. Here's the owner of that gap. Here's our mitigation strategy. And here's when we target it being completed. Again, as Will mentioned, it's really a go or no go. Once you get to level 3, there's no plan of action and milestones. You really have to have these things in place. And the third bullet, as far as the assessment, there's different what they call SALs, security assurance levels. So when you have somebody doing a remote assessment, that will give you a lower security assurance than if somebody comes on site and actually interviews people. So it's like most audits, you're going to want to look at evidence. You're going to want to look at documentation. I'm touching on the last bullet as well. You're going to want to see drawings, architecture diagrams, screenshots to see that things are logged. If you have a SIM, that type of thing. You're also going to want to interview people to talk about what is the process, how does this work in your organization? And in any good audit, you're going to want to see evidence saying, okay, we've talked to somebody, we understand that they understand the process, we have it documented. That's going to get you through this audit. So that's really all I have. And again, I think we're saving questions to the end.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, and I think that's a very good overview of the mechanics of CMMC, and it's what's important for people to note, especially people that are familiar with the former requirements under NIST 800-171, is that CMMC requires every single practice to be adequately met at its respective maturity level. Otherwise, the organization fails. NIST 800-171 and DFARS required that an organization have everything in place, but if it didn't, in certain circumstances, they could have POAMs, plans of action, and milestones to remediate gaps. But CMMC does away with that, and so it really imposes a large obligation, and it's a big lift. It's a humongous lift especially for small and mid-sized companies.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So where are the opportunities for IT MSPs in this environment? So as I mentioned at the outset, we perceive you as being the first line of defense for customers who have systems that are going to be subject to CMMC. They're going to come to you first with their questions, with their problems, in search of solutions. Basically, they're going to say, look, you're our sysadmin, and all we want to do is come in and do our work and focus on the products that we make or the services we provide. You manage our environment. And so, you're going to be being asked these questions about CMMC if you're not being asked them already. So we want to basically educate you and give you some strategies. So one of the things to keep in mind is that the CMMC's requirements are going to go far beyond the scope of the solutions that most MSPs provide off the shelf to commercial customers. There are, obviously some MSPs that have security solutions. A lot of those are very valuable and may check some boxes, but the scope of the CMMC is so broad. If you look at those 17 domains, they're addressing not just technical controls, but administrative controls, physical controls, and the like, and in a way that requires them to be implemented and documented and evidenced in a way that most MSPs are just not familiar with. MSPs should be hesitant, in my opinion, to commit to supporting CMMC requirements without fully knowing the obligations and costs involved. So, it can be easy to jump at an opportunity, try to push a solution. I would just be careful with, giving your customer the impression that, hey, buying this utility or this appliance is going to solve the problem, because almost assuredly it might be a piece of the solution, but it's not going to satisfy the requirements and get them through their assessment. Managed on-premise environments, as I mentioned earlier, may require the IT MSP itself to become CMMC certified. The reason for that is that you have God mode, right? In a lot of cases over your customer's environment, which means you have access to the controlled unclassified information. And so unless that access that you have is properly provisioned under their system security plan, you could be running into these requirements themselves if you want to continue to service those customers. We're going to talk about ways around that, but it's something to keep in mind. MSPs should seek partnerships with CMMC registered practitioners like our firm. There are others out there. We're really focused on working with a lot of the companies in the manufacturing industrial space here in the Detroit area. But there's others as well. But you need to have a reliable partner that's really knee deep in this stuff. We've been working on this now for close to 2 years. As it's developed, as it's come out of DoD, there's a lot of moving parts to it. We're barely scratching the surface today with this stuff, and so it helps to have somebody in your corner that knows what's going on, and especially as it's evolving. So some actionable advice. I think, you have a current customer base. It's important to ask them whether they are or are likely to require CMMC compliance. A big clue would be if they're currently subject to DFARS, then the answer is probably yes. They may not know yet, depending on how much interaction they're having with their sourcing official or how far down the supply chain they are. Maybe if they're a tier 3 or tier 4, to some other contractors, they may not have as much visibility to this yet, but they should have some idea, or they should be getting some idea pretty soon. There's been a lot of communications as of late in the defense supply chain to get this information out. It's important to try to find out what CMMC maturity level they will need to meet. As Peter was discussing, there's a big difference between maturity level 1 and maturity level 3. Maturity level 1 is a small number of practices that can be performed but documented ad hoc. They don't need to be fully documented. You don't need to have the management component in place where they're, where resources are demonstrated and committed and all of that stuff. So it matters a lot which level they actually have to meet, but many contractors are going to have to meet level 3. Involve your CMMC practitioner partner to help you design a plan that meets your customer's requirements and is supported through the assessment. I think that, if you want to continue to support customers that have these needs, there's great ways to do it, and there's opportunities for MSPs to upsell and resell other solutions, as well as provide consultative services alongside their existing subscription plans and the like. So it's really just about crafting a plan that's going to work for you and your customers. I think it's really important that you clearly define your role and your responsibilities to the customer. I know a lot of smaller companies look to their MSP as pretty much a hands-off approach in terms of the MSP manages the environment and solves all their IT problems for them. But I think you need to help draw a line and say, look, we're responsible for certain things, but not others. We don't own your compliance obligations. You own your compliance obligations. We're here to support and assist and provide certain services that are going to help you, pass your assessment, but we're not responsible for that. And that goes along with properly scoping, pricing, and disclaiming your services in your RFPs to customers. I mean, I think you really need to draw that scope up carefully. I think there's an opportunity for charging a premium for any services around CMMC because it involves so much additional effort, and then obviously disclaiming your liability. And leveraging cloud-based enclave solutions wherever possible. And that's one of the unique solutions that we're going to talk about in the presentation, and Steve will introduce you to. And I think that there is a huge opportunity with respect to those and solving these CMMC-related challenges for customers. So managing IT environments subject to CMMC. So for on-prem environments, MSPs are going to be asked likely to participate in system scoping exercises, architecture, design, and configuration management. Some of these things you may already be doing to some degree. You may have to up your game in terms of what you're doing, from today to what customers will require for CMMC. It just depends on your circumstances. But you can expect that you're going to get questions about this because these are sort of like prerequisites to developing a system security plan. You really have to know the boundaries of the environment and the architecture of the environment and how the environment's configured. For on-prem environments, you may use VLANs to segment networks to shrink the scope. So, for example, if you have a typical, manufacturing company that has a front office with accounting, payroll, HR, sales, marketing, and such, that doesn't really ever receive any controlled and classified information, but their technical center or their design center or their manufacturing floor does, it can be possible to properly segment that environment in order to sort of shrink the scope of the CMMC assessment. So that's something to think about, something to strategize with your clients about. I would expect to work closely with your customers on implementing each of the required practices, and that means ensuring that artifacts and logs are maintained to evidence each one. As Peter mentioned, to survive a CMMC assessment, each practice has to be evidenced by 2 objective forms of evidence. So generally speaking, that's at least 1 artifact coupled with an interview, or it could be 2 artifacts, or screenshot plus a log, anything like that. So developing that stuff along the way and then creating automation around it is really helpful. Maintenance and monitoring will involve, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual activities. Who will perform those? That's to be determined, right? Some clients will be able to absorb their own maintenance and monitoring. And in other cases, probably a lot of cases, they're going to look to the MSP to help them do that. And that could be, things as simple as reviewing access logs to particular applications that handle CUI on a regular basis to determine whether or not there's any sort of, unusual or suspicious access. And then obviously, if you are the information system owner or manager for your customer, you can probably plan to be interviewed as part of their CMMC assessment and be in the position of supplying some of that supporting documentation. The reason for that is that your customer may not be able to speak knowledgeably about the items that the assessor is asking. And so you will be in the hot seat, if you will, potentially during that assessment process. Cloud-based enclave. So we're presenting these as sort of an alternative to trying to scope the client's on-prem environment. And the reason for that is to really just better scope and shrink the environment subject to assessment. And so the CMMC accreditation body has expressly discussed the use of cloud-based enclaves as a means to efficiently satisfy CMMC requirements. They recognize that a large percentage of the defense supply chain is comprised of mom and pop enterprises, right? 20, 30, 40, 50 person businesses and even smaller. We're working with some clients right now that are scientific labs. They have 4 employees, or a company that's making some small components for the nuclear industry. They're a 10-person business. This is a tremendous lift for them, and to try to bring their on-prem environment into compliance and harden it in the way that CMMC requires is just not realistic. So the CMMC-AB, instead of seeing these companies drop off and no longer participate in these types of contracts, is really pushing the idea of cloud-based enclaves. And the cloud-based enclave can really be designed with CMMC security features by default, and just sort of configured off the shelf, ready to go, checking a lot of the boxes. And they can be used in a variety of scenarios. They can be standalone solutions for individual contractors. They can be used by prime contractors to share with smaller subcontractors who may not be able to complete the lift, but are essential in the manufacturing process. And they can be used between contractors of different maturity levels in order to streamline the sharing of CUI. Obviously, as I mentioned, they can significantly reduce the scope of an assessment. They're isolating CUI to the core applications versus the entire environment, which has other processing activities unrelated to the controlled unclassified information. And obviously, they're a great solution for SMBs with limited resources. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve Panofsky of UBX Cloud.
Thank you very much, Will. Appreciate that. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Steve Panofsky with UBX Cloud. And as you can see, UBX loves MSPs, and that's the whole audience today. So I'm very excited to be speaking with everyone. If you want to go ahead and go to the next slide, Will. Okay, so Will touched on the majority of the benefit of kind of moving these CMMC architectures over into a cloud environment to kind of isolate and reduce the scope a bit. Well, actually, I'm sorry, let's go back a slide. I should probably introduce myself first because I'm assuming that. Thank you. So to give you an understanding of who I am and who UBX is and how we play a role in this, I'll tell you a little bit about our organization. So UBX Cloud is a 13-year-old cloud services provider. Fundamentally, at our core, we are an internet service provider. We operate and manage all of our systems and kind of control the supply chain when it comes to our systems. And we own our own IP space. We manage our fiber optic links between all our data center locations. And our day-to-day mission is to empower managed service providers to help them with their deliverables. So we engage managed service providers, and we are the back-end teams that manage their private cloud infrastructure, manage their level 2 and level 3 engineering services, and kind of become an extension of their engineering team. And we partner with them, and our specialty is strictly in the data center. It's the 4 corners of that cabinet that what we are really good at. Our company is just a team of seasoned network and systems engineers with heavy specialization. Even though we're 13 years old, prior to the incorporation, many of us have ISP and data center experience from the 90s. I myself have been in data centers since 96. And we bring that skill in virtualization specialization to the table. And like I said, we empower MSPs to deliver their services. We engage with the MSPs directly. So we're IT talking to IT, which is really great. And we've been providing these cloud-based services like desktop as a service, powered by Citrix, Microsoft architecture and design, systems engineering on the back end for Microsoft technologies and Linux technologies, and and we're also subject matter experts when it comes to cybersecurity, virtualization, and all those cloud infra things that we do very well. And our we recognize the needs of the managed service providers deeply. We understand how they compete. We understand what helps them win customers and keep customers, and we're a partner there. By us working together, we can make the client sticky. When they have their cloud infrastructure and they're managed by a managed service provider who provides that white labeled cloud infrastructure, then there's less of a chance that they would leave for another managed service provider due to cost or whatnot. So the MSPs will provide more value in that sense, and that's what we do every day. Our drive is to make sure that MSPs are competitive. They have the tools that they need to chart a path to the cloud and get their clients there, and to reduce complexity. So with that mission statement in mind, we're presenting a joint offering here that kind of solves the compliancy solution and allows MSPs to compete in this space, and giving them a competitive edge. We've been doing this for 13 years, so we are providing this advantage to you and empowering you to move forward with it. Now you can advance to the next slide, Will. Thank you. Okay, so as I mentioned, separating the enclave environment and keeping that separate from your client's on-premise environment is going to be, very simple with a push to the cloud model. And by using a CMMC accredited enclave, the uplift for that particular client is going to be so much simpler. When these audits happen and these clients have these requirements that are mandatory, as a managed service provider, it's going to be very time consuming for you. And to go through and to sit here and go through all these audits and see and just figure out where your client's at. So what Relic Law does is that they come in and they'll determine what the lift is to get them there, and then based on that, there's usually a scenario that comes into play, and it says, okay, if you want to update your on-premise systems and segregate things and check all the boxes on your 280 controls, you're going to have to do all these things, and it's going to cost you $250,000. Or on the other hand, you can shift to a cloud-based architecture with a CMMC cloud enclave, and you're already 170 points in, right? Like you're already being uplifted to that point, so that the reach to get to that next level, to level you up, is going to be much simpler. Go ahead and advance, Will. This is pretty much of the same thing. By controlling controlled and classified information, and also by isolating these systems not only for your own internal employees, for your clients, but actually for the subcontractors and for the IT staff. We have designed ways where we can allow the managed service providers to maintain role-based access control and do their thing in the IT environment, which includes managing their customers' on-premise environment, managing the customers front-facing, and managing the limited scope that they need to manage in the cloud environment. And that kind of minimizes the amount of work they have to do, and and B, any of the risk associated with it. Now, go ahead, Will. Okay. A cloud is secure by design. So UBX architected these environments with all the security and compliance features built in. We've been doing this before with NIST, and we've been doing this before with all the other attestations and all the other audits that we have to do. And it's just a natural evolution to kind of bring those kinds of workloads into our environment. We've always had the mantra of bringing the user to the data. So, desktop as a service or cloud workspaces is a huge part of our business. We deliver VDI solutions to our MSP partners, who then in turn white label them and then sell them to their clients. We're bringing the user to the data. You don't have to worry about what's living on someone's workstation or laptop or other device that you don't have a lot of control over. And especially now in the age of COVID, it's a really significant risk, and it's a really significant challenge to maintain. And instead of having to reinvent the wheel and purchase subscriptions with multiple firewalls and multiple services and kind of have 15 people managing them, by having one throat to choke and having one, having one session that the user has access to in a seamless experience that you can control is just another way of making your jobs easier. We already have the logging and the separation and the role-based access control. We already have business continuity built in. All of our data centers are linked with N+1 architecture all throughout all throughout all of our locations. So we have redundant links, layer 2 links between our sites. We've got cross storage-based replication, through VMware. We've got offsite backups. We do all these business continuity things that maybe you have challenges in your environment kind of getting the customer to accept on their own, but when it's baked into a solution and the price is affordable, it's much easier to adopt. And with this option, and what UBX delivers to MSP partners, you don't have to worry about the office coffee pot, right? This is a great example because this is exactly what happened with me in my experience. Office next door, they leave the office coffee pot on and it burns the whole building down. That's a risk, and you can put all the walls and the security and the checks that you have in your building, but if you're sharing it with someone else and they burn it down, you're going to be at a loss. So you don't have to worry about your doctor's office with their sonic wall, and you don't have to worry about all these other challenges that you face in your environment. If you shift that environment into a flash stack based architecture that's secure by design, it's less of a surface area for attack and less of a management scope. Go ahead, Will. Again, to expand on the security by design, we're using the best of breed technologies inside of our security stack, and we've already baked these technologies as a deliverable as a part of our cloud model. So if you're consuming virtual private cloud from UBX today, if you're already an MSP partner, then your customers are already getting some of these benefits. The CMMC cloud enclaves are just a step up from what our traditional service offering is, and I'll go into how there's an effective way to sell it and get it out there and still being competitive in this space. Our networks by design, we include network segmentation, proper VLANing, next gen firewalls, and we layer things like DNS-based security. Packet inspection for every packet that's coming in and out of the environment, and that gets run through an analytic engine, and it's categorized in the MITRE ATT&CK framework, and there's all these fantastic cybersecurity solutions that have been tried and tested and have been built in for years. So that's something that you don't have to vet, and it's something that you don't have to involve multiple vendors to deliver and manage when it's already baked into the solution. Go ahead, Will, the next one. In the Cloud Enclave environment, we're powering this technology with a VMware View. We're leading with that technology, but we can also do Citrix on desktop and Microsoft hosted virtual desktop. All these applications are supported. I mean, the majority of all the line of business applications, think QuickBooks, Sage Accounting, Peachtree, Fishbowl, Microsoft Office Suite, that's going to be exactly the same as if it would be on an on-premise installation, as long as there's a reliable internet connectivity, which, I mean, that's pretty much like air these days. So everyone kind of needs that. Our environment also supports, GPU intensive applications. So you can run Adobe CS Suite, Adobe Premiere, Adobe Photoshop, CAD modeling applications, civil design applications, AI applications. This is emerging, but things that use GPU processing power for rendering. Think Bitcoin mining, think protein folding. Those kinds of very intensive and unique workloads. Really, anything on premise can be run in this cloud enclave. I like to say Linux monstrosities like Kubernetes and Elasticsearch. Sorry, I'm an opinionated Windows systems engineer, but those systems are incredibly complex to manage, to run, and they use an insane amount of resources. So not having the expertise on hand to maintain those things, it can get pretty ugly pretty fast. And these are the services that we provide, and we also provide the management of these services and co-management with the MSP partners. Go ahead, Will. And to touch a little bit more on the MSP management piece, by onboarding your clients into this already tried and tested cloud enclave, you kind of skip to the front of the line and you reduce the complexity of having to uplift them significantly, and you're providing them an attractive cost, because what's going to end up happening is that if you cannot provide them these services, they're going to go find an MSP partner who will. And that's definitely a competitive advantage, because the more stickier you are with the client and the more hold that you have and the value that you present to them, the less chance they're going to churn. So, UBX for 13 years has been co-managing managed service provider environments as long as they have a path to the cloud. So as long as there's some touch point into our environment, and that would be, hosted virtual desktop, VMware, private cloud infrastructure, um, backup as a service powered by Veeam, and disaster recovery and replication as a service powered by Veeam as well. So as long as there's a customer touch point into our environment, our team of network and systems engineers will unburden you and help you manage or co-manage or fully manage these environments. It's all baked into our services. It's all baked into our deliverable to you. And then the MSP partner owns the client engagement. And that allows them to kind of service the customer directly, be in their face, be that CTO, be that CIO, be that advisor, and that consulting arm for them. And it unlocks additional opportunities because, no one's really making money selling servers anymore. The whole industry has shifted to a subscription, and this is another way that, that you can kind of capture that and still be of tremendous value to them. The next slide, Will. Okay. Just like all of our service offerings at UBX, everything is as simple as a cell phone plan. I really hate, the complexity of cloud. I've always hated it. I've always liked simple, and no one sitting at the other end of that bill wants to sit there and figure out, okay, how many cores did I use? How much memory did I use? How much bandwidth entered and left my environment? It's a math problem that no one really needs. And the public, the hyperscalers and the public clouds, it's exactly what they make money on. And I see the value in the public cloud, but when it comes to managed service providers and preserving revenues and margins, shifting to a private cloud with a white labeled offering is really the best advantage for them, because it's simple, it's easy. They don't need to set up a colo or become network engineering experts or shift into different kinds of technologies and try to make things work when the recipe and the sausage is already being made and they can just put their label on it. UBX also has we're very uniquely positioned here because we're not quite telco and we're not MSP. We do not compete with MSPs. We help MSPs, and that's a really important distinction. And we are responsible for keeping our skills sharp in the systems and network engineering area so that it alleviates some of the burdens on them. They don't have to get CCNE, they don't have to get MCSE, they don't have to do those things to they can just leverage our team at a fraction of the cost. And it's all baked into the deliverable. And our plans, I mean, even for our, to give you guys an example, our business continuity options are all billed per terabyte, right? We provide everything, as long as you tally up at the end of the month how many offsite terabytes that you're consuming with us, we'll give you everything. We'll give you the support, the on-premise licensing, and all the components for Veeam and Veeam consultation. It's all included. So this is the same exact concept. So if your sales team can buy a mobile phone data plan, they can sell our white labeled cloud services. And the CMMC enclaves are no different. Go ahead and advance. Okay, so we've got some attractive price points that include everything as a part of an all-inclusive option. Now, I couldn't include the entire image here, but we'll be sending some collateral and some options to the attendees here on this call. And it's everything. Everything's baked in. The cloud infrastructure is baked in. The VDI desktops are baked in. The licensing is baked in. The Windows Server licensing, the CALs, the sales, all that stuff that you would normally have to sit there and order and procure and set up and put your margin on top of, all that's baked in. We have our 3 different technologies that we're leading with, and mind you, we're all experts in maintaining this technology and caring and feeding it. We're leading with Horizon View, but we definitely have had decades of Citrix experience and Microsoft RDS and hosted virtual desktop experience. We are providing 3 different sizes of VDI. Think like physical workstation, right? 4 cores, 8 gigs of RAM, 60 gigs of flash, and we're using off-the-shelf technology that we and a stack that we've put together over the course of 13 years that's been very effective. We're using Pure Storage as our backend storage fabric. We're using Cisco Nexus for our backend network fabric. We're using the FlashStack model powered by VMware, protected by Veeam. And we're doing all these things, and we've been doing it, and we can provide that advantage to our MSP partners at a significant discount. With our volume of delivering VDI and the length of time that we've been in this market, it's such a great competitive advantage to layer the CMMC requirements on top of it and provide these enclaves. So, we're providing US data centers, we're providing offsite replication, offsite disaster recovery as a service, a managed firewall, dedicated IP space, no bandwidth metering, multi-factor authentication. We're layering multiple cybersecurity solutions, DNS firewalling, all to provide a complete package that helps that customer uplift be reduced. And when you're speaking with the customer and you're saying, okay, $250,000 for a refit, right? Just to be able to continue to do business with the federal government, just to continue to have to be able to make your widgets and keep your contracts active, or a couple $1,000s a month per desktop or per user. So it's a very simple way of selling it. And for our MSP partners, we're offering this at a significant discount. So you're able to mark this up at what the at whatever level you want. Our billing engagement is with the MSP partner and direct, and then you own the client engagement. That's the majority of the model that we have, and then we help you deliver it. We can provide pre-sales engineering and pre-sales discussions. We provide post-sales engineering and support, all inclusive. You'll never get an hourly bill from us. And MSPs can just mark that up and then sell that and keep themselves sticky with the client and keep their offering relevant for the risks with CMMC. And by every 3 years that you have to actually go through and show progression on what control checks did you not make the last time the audit happened, and now what are the changes that you have to make in the next 3-year cycle. Well, that's a part of what we're doing every day. We're doing vulnerability scannings. We're doing checks on our edge. We're doing checks internally. We're monitoring packets on the inside of our network. We're leveraging a security operations team and a network operations team to make sure that everything is up and secure. And there's a differentiator there. And the managed service provider just has to be engaged with the client and provide those value adds that they bring. Do the on-site service and support, do the consulting. Be that friendly face that they get to see every day, and let us work with your teams to unburden them. And we're open. Like some of our managed service providers have actually given us some feedback on what technologies work. Like, for example, ThreatLocker. That was something that I had never used before. I never even heard of before. But I witnessed a managed service provider was setting it up in their environment and asked us to do it. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is a really excellent solution, and we should really be integrating this. And so it's a two-way street. We provide the value, and we provide the network and systems engineering expertise, and then we take from you and we move forward with a product. For example, virtual private cloud is included, so unlimited cloud infrastructure for supporting servers. We understand that even with VDI desktops, you still need infrastructure servers. You need Active Directory, Exchange, SQL, Linux servers, web servers, application servers, ERPs, all this fun stuff. And those are the things that we manage. And our MSP partners, right after COVID, were like, look, we can't do this, math problem stuff anymore. Can you just give us a per seat price per desktop? And then, then we don't have to then make it so that you're covering your costs on the infrastructure side. And we actually saw the value in doing that, and so did they, and it just made it easier for them to sell, and it made it easier for us to manage. So this is the enclave packages that we put together, and and we want to empower you to kind of make that lift easier. I'll go ahead, Will, with the next slide. We also offer, as a part of our service, is a white label option. So we can be a completely white label solution for you. So if you see my screenshot, this is our cloud portal. It provides, virtual machine administration, desktop as a service, launching points, managing your block storage, managing your help desk tickets, your security metrics and monitoring. And there's a concept of subtenants inside of this platform. So you can slap your own logo on it, and it's a one-stop shop for all your cloud stuff. And the CMMC cloud enclaves are no exception to that. The auditing and reporting tools will be built into there. That's actually coming soon. It's a very attractive offering, and you can interface with our staff either through the support portal. And then some of our gold and platinum partners get direct access to our engineering teams through Slack channels private Slack channel, so that's always nice. And you know, we help our MSP providers grow and you know, become more proficient in this area, and in turn, it makes us grow. And you know, it's a very mutual relationship, and it's very much a two-way street. And this is what we're trying to provide, you know, partnering with Relic Law and partnering with, you know, Peter and people who are minded about the security focus here, and how challenging it's going to be for these small businesses to uplift it. Go ahead, Will. Okay, Partner Smart. UBX has the domain expertise in these technologies. And like I mentioned, we're just a Slack, text, or ticket away. So we're experts in Windows systems engineering, pretty much every single Microsoft SKU out there. We can manage it. We can sell the licensing on a per month basis, or you can bring your own licensing, and then we provide the layered management services on top of it. Same thing with Linux systems engineering and infrastructure engineering. So we really are that back end team that helps unburden the managed service providers, and partnering with you know, our cybersecurity vendors and you know, other software and technologies that we're incorporating into this offering. It just makes for more sound investment in the CMMC enclaves. Go ahead, Will. Thank you very much for at least having my part in there, and I hope that everyone on this call sees the value of partnering smart.
Thanks a lot, Steve. That was a great explanation of UBX Cloud's capabilities, especially with respect to CMMC ready cloud enclaves. So I kind of want to, excuse me, wrap up the presentation today by just quickly, you know, addressing some issues around assisting customers with CMMC readiness. So I'm going to just dive right into that. So in terms of assisting your customers, I think the first thing that you need to understand is that there are valuable opportunities for IT MSPs in servicing customers that require CMMC compliance. Being able to offer this capability obviously sets you apart in the marketplace. A lot of IT MSPs are going to be afraid of this, or just not wanting to deal with the complexity of it, and they'll probably back away. But there's a huge total addressable market for companies that will need assistance in this area. And so it's to your benefit to, you know, if you can shoulder some of this and figure it out, it's helpful. And then obviously there's opportunities to monetize services around it. I think it's important to be able to educate customers at least around the margins, how you can assist them with CMMC compliance. And I think, you know, for most MSPs, that's going to be offering solutions and providing support. You know, you're probably not going to get into the business of conducting assessments or drafting policy and procedure documents and stuff like that, but certainly providing support. I think, you know, the first step is to consult with customers on their environment and discuss, you know, how it can be logically segmented, or how they can leverage a cloud enclave, or how they can shrink their overall compliance footprint. I think that's an important part of every engagement that we enter into. And usually we're working with the MSP in order to just kind of better understand the client's environment. Where does certain data live? What kind of access do specific users have? What are the various business units or departments within the company? And sort of just getting that, you know, sort of mapped out. And then, you know, helping customers identify useful CMMC resources. A lot of customers are not going to have a lot of sophistication in seeking out their own assistance in this area. They're going to be basically just, you know, running Google searches. They're going to be seeing a bunch of different stuff. There's a lot of garbage out there right now. There's a lot of noise. And, you know, you can be sort of an advocate that helps them sift through that noise and really find some useful solutions in terms of, you know, getting a pre-assessment done, really figuring out where they're at, what their security posture is, their compliance posture, and so on, and then deploying the right resources. Offering strategic in-house and third-party solutions. MSPs can craft their own approach to how they're going to, you know, work in this space. There's no one size, you know, shoe fits all at this point in time. I think there's a lot of room for creativity. You can offer a mix of solutions. You can, you know, take on a lot internally and outsource a lot, or you can, you know, outsource everything and just manage, you know, the customer relationship. And then obviously supporting their compliance efforts and billing them accordingly. I think, like I said, that customers are going to need to be aware that all of the bells and whistles that CMMC requires them to now have, and perform and document, manage and implement and maintain comes at a cost. And I think that there's a lot of room here for MSPs to make money on customers that have to address these needs. So lean on us. Obviously, this is the sales pitch slide of the presentation. And, so as a law firm focused on cybersecurity compliance, we want to partner with you as MSPs to provide CMMC advisory, readiness, and assessment services to your clients. We're not going to conduct the actual assessments because there would be a conflict of interest for us to do that if we're assisting on the readiness side. But we're performing our pre-assessments. We're giving them all the information they need to shore up gaps in their compliance posture, and then helping recommend strategies for shrinking their footprint for compliance, identifying the resources that they need, and then working with them all the way through the point of their assessment. And these engagements are lengthy. A lot of them can last 6 months for a very mature, sophisticated company, all the way to 12 to 18 months. Most companies that are going to require CMMC compliance, depending on where they're at, are going to need approximately 12 months to prepare. So it's an involved process. So that's where we're at. And then obviously UBX Cloud, maybe Steve, you can speak real quickly on your relationship there. Steve?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was just going to let you kind of wrap up your piece of this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I apologize. So yes, partnering smart with UBX and Relic Law and getting your customers to that precipice of CMMC is going to be a challenge. So leveraging us is really going to help you get there. I mean, we've already done all the legwork and we've really simplified this model and are providing an easy and cost-effective way to get your clients there. And it's a challenge. I mean, everyone kind of has to stay in their own lane and everyone needs to kind of participate. UBX as a cloud service provider does not do any work on premise. We don't do any consulting on premise. We don't have any very little interfacing with the on-premise customer, and that's what the MSPs strive on. So, even from us, if we get direct engagements, we would be partnering with MSPs to complete the deliverable, because as a part of these audits and as a part of this uplifting, they need an on-site, on-premise component anyway, even if it's something that they're not actually going to be, even if there's not a whole lot there, they still need boots in the ground to still shore up some of the stuff on premise. So it's definitely a mutually agreeable situation, and everyone kind of puts their best foot forward to complete it. So I hope that there's some value that will be gained from this discussion. I know that's kind of a dry topic, and I try to make it a little fun, but there's a lot here, and there's a lot of work involved to get that uplift. But if you have the correct mindset and if you partner with the right people, you can get there.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. And I think I should mention as well, in terms of our support for MSPs, we're willing to work directly with your customer alongside you, sort of in close collaboration, or even as sort of a white label basis to you, where we can provide our sort of compliance readiness services and pre-assessment and services almost through you if you'd like. And so we can talk about that on a case-by-case basis, but there are different options for working with us as well. So lastly, I just want to make you aware there are 3 learning events that we're hosting coming up starting next Wednesday, the same time. These are going to focus more on CMMC, the compliance standard, the various aspects of it. And so it's really geared towards people in this space, but anyone from your company is welcome to attend, as well as anyone that you are working with on the customer side that has this need. We'd be happy to have them. If you want to invite them, we'll send this information out to you. Have them attend, and they're going to get a good primer on CMMC, and it's going to kind of warm them up to the things that they need to start thinking about and doing, and obviously drive them probably directly into your arms for solutions. And so we will send this information out to you. So unfortunately, we're at time. We don't really have much time for questions, but I will post in the chat a link, if I haven't already, a Google form for anybody who wants to submit a question to us. Go ahead and send that in, and then we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And let's see. Yeah, thank you. We appreciate everyone that was able to come out and participate in this today. Everyone who participates is entitled to a free consult with our firm and with UBX Cloud. We're going to be sending out a Calendly link to schedule time to meet with us if you'd be interested in doing that. And we look forward to speaking with you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Great job, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye now.